Welcome to our Interfaith Roundtable webinar, Flourishing in the Face of Grief and Loss, Prioritizing Health and Wellness. Sorry, I had to turn off the music. All right. Okay, welcome again. Our Interfaith Roundtable today is Flourishing in the Face of Grief and Loss, Prioritizing Health and Wellness. My name is Jessica Delgado. I am a coordinator at the ADAPT Coalition through Family Connections. And this webinar is brought to you by our Interfaith Committee here at the Coalition. Also, we work with the County of Essex, JACATA, the Counselor's Council of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and the Prosecutor's Office of Essex County. All right, so today's program will consist of a brief welcome and housekeeping about the ADAPT Coalition, and then we're going to have our presentation by Pastor Ron Gonzalez from Christ Church, then our think tank discussion, and our closing remarks. At this time, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Ms. Gwinnera Curry. She's on the line here as well and will be co-hosting this event with me.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this 2022 first ADAPT Roundtable. Jessica is going to continue to share some housekeeping updates, but I want to take this opportunity to say welcome. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to gathering for the think tank and being able to really share some of the learnings and how we can implement them. Okay, thank you so much. Jessica, you want to go over the housekeeping and then I'll proceed?
Yes. If you could please have your audio muted during the presentation, just so we can hear our presenter clearly. We really appreciate that. We may also mute your voice as well if we're hearing background noise. Please submit your questions in the chat box. We're not going to be taking questions during the presentation. We'll be monitoring those questions and then asking them to our presenter upon the conclusion of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and available on ADAPT's YouTube channel. There'll be an evaluation that will be provided to you at the conclusion of this webinar. You can please complete that so that we can improve upon our future events. And last but not least, we will be having a raffle drawing for a spa therapy relaxation gift basket that we will have at the conclusion of the event. So our coalition's mission is to prevent and reduce substance abuse and to improve the overall health of all residents of Essex County. We are a group of volunteers that work together to empower youth leaders and community members, and we collaborate with community partners to improve education and awareness. We advocate for local and county-wide programmatic and policy changes. We do focus on underage drinking, prescription drug misuse and abuse, youth tobacco and vape use, and youth cannabis use. Our committees consist of underage drinking, prescription drugs, interfaith, LGBTQ+. In addition, we do have a group of youth leaders that we work with, ages 13 to 18. If you have any youth that you work with that you would like to recommend for our program, please let me know. You can either send your information through the chat box, or you can actually scan the QR code on this page for the membership application for our youth. So this is a great opportunity for youth that might want to become involved. They will receive community service hours, and it looks great on college applications, and also references for part-time job that they may be looking for, or summer internship or something like that. So we do meet virtually right now due to the pandemic, but hopefully we'll be doing some more in-person events in the near future. And again, we educate our youth about substance use and what they can do to take action to create tobacco-free and substance-free communities. Our Interfaith Committee empowers the faith-based leaders of Essex County to understand and engage in issues affecting overall wellness in their communities. Our chairperson is Winera Curry, our vice chair is Michael Doherty, and our secretary is Demetricia Barnes. Our coalition is funded by various grants through the New Jersey Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services and the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. Our fiscal agent is Family Connections, a leading New Jersey nonprofit that supports children, adults, and families with a wide range of programs to counter trauma, mental illness, addiction, domestic violence, child abuse, and more. Now I will turn this over to Winera to introduce our presenter. Thank you.
So good morning again. I have the privilege and the opportunity to present to you Pastor Ron Gonzalez, who, as you may recall, offered a brief synopsis regarding grief during our symposium last year. There was an overwhelming interest in such, so we thought we would afford the opportunity for all of us to gain more tools, more understanding as it relates to grief and loss. Pastor Ron Gonzalez had a 26-year career with the United States Postal Service, then transitioning in 2000 to full-time ministry at Christ Church with locations in Montclair and Rockaway, New Jersey. Pastor Ron Gonzalez serves as a counseling pastor. He provides oversight to the lay counseling ministry, pastoral care, and chaplaincy ministries. He is a certified grief recovery method specialist. He has earned his master's degree in theology from Alliance Theological Seminary in Nyack, New York. He also serves as a police chaplain with the Montclair Police Department and New Jersey Department of Corrections. At this time, we turn it over to Pastor Ron. Please be mindful of much of the information that he will share, because we will transition to Q&A afterwards, and then also into our think tank, which we'll describe a little bit more. So Pastor Ron, we thank you for being here with us, and we release the time to you now.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Winera. And greetings to everyone, wherever you're joining us from. It's great to have you with us. What a day, what a day. Well, I want to thank you, everyone from the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention team at ADAPT, as well as the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and all of you working so hard to make a difference in people's lives in Essex County. Thank you, thank you. I am honored to share at this very important event, and I just want to have a conversation with you about flourishing in the midst of grief and loss. And I know that may not sound like the most exciting or sexiest topic to talk about, but don't check out. I really trust that you're going to be helped with practical tools when it comes to grief and loss, not only for you, but for your loved ones and the many different people that you serve. I'm so grateful that growing up, I had two very loving parents who taught me so many things about life and modeled them before me. But when I think about it, when I was a child, I don't remember either of my parents or any trusted adult sitting me down and explaining to me how to deal in a healthy way with the emotional pain when our family's dog died, or when an older kid in the neighborhood repeatedly bullied me. When our dog died, I do remember my mother saying to me, "Here, Ron, don't cry, have some cookies and milk, you'll feel better." The cookies and milk made me feel different in the moment, but I was still sad and heartbroken with no clue as to what to do with all the emotional pain I was experiencing. I loved that dog. And when I came home crying from the bullying, I do remember my father saying to me, "Big boys don't cry. If you're going to cry, go to your room." Now, don't get me wrong, I'm convinced my parents loved me. But without even realizing it, they were helping me to establish the first behavior patterns that I would use for the rest of my life in dealing with pain from loss of any kind. And the underlying message was that the best way to deal with sad emotions was to ignore them or stuff them down. Now, as a child, you probably had similar experiences. And most likely your parents or other adults around you said similar things to you, trying to help you to stop feeling sad. And perhaps as a parent, you yourself have said similar things to your children. But here's the problem. Most people equate grief with a death. But let me share two definitions of grief we use in grief recovery. First, grief is the normal and natural reaction to loss of any kind. I'll read that again. Grief is the normal and natural reaction to loss of any kind. That tells us that grief, first and foremost, is normal and it's natural. However, the tools, the help that we've received in our lives has not been that normal and has not been very, very helpful to us. The second different definition we use in grief recovery is this: grief is the conflicting feelings caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behavior. So with that, we see that grief brings conflicting emotions or mixed emotions, conflicting feelings caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behavior. So that really broadens the definition of grief. So let me give you a couple examples, all right? Let's say an empty nester. They're celebrating that they successfully raised their child and they're on their own, they're independent, and they're out of the house, finally. Yet they're experiencing some sad emotions too at the same time because they miss their children. They miss their presence in the home and the interaction on a regular basis. Another example, someone who graduates or someone who retires, they're celebrating this goal, this new season in their lives, something they've been looking forward to for a while. But at the same time, there's a sadness because they're leaving a familiar surrounding. They're saying goodbye to maybe friends and others that they've come to know so well. And one more example, a divorce. Someone who experiences a divorce also experiences mixed emotions. They may be happy that relationship, that marriage is over because there was so much pain involved. They may be dancing in the street like they do in the Middle East. But on the other side, there's a sadness, there's a pain involved because they're grieving the loss of hopes, dreams, and expectations they had at one point for that relationship. So all of this is normal and natural. Not long ago, I sat down with Justin, a 15-year-old from our congregation. He began to share with me that over the course of his life, his great-grandmother and grandmother, who he adored, both died. 2 dogs he loved died. His family relocated from New York to New Jersey, leaving behind many close friends, and he was relentlessly bullied at his new school. Every change, every loss Justin encountered in his life had elements of grief attached to them. He lost 2 matriarchs, 2 beloved pets, friends, familiar surroundings. And from the bullying, listen carefully, from the bullying, he lost a sense of safety, a sense of security, acceptance and trust, and a sense of his identity. That's a lot. So Justin needed help understanding and navigating the grieving process and all the pain he was dealing with because he had become ensnared with unhealthy, addictive behaviors and contemplated suicide. Let me give you another example. Imagine a steam kettle filled with water. The flame underneath the kettle is turned up high. As the water heats and boils, the steam from the heat is released through the spout and, like most kettles, creates a whistle indicating the water is boiling. Now imagine that same kettle, but with a cork jammed into the spout. The pressure builds up inside the kettle without any release of all that energy. What's going to happen? That's right, an explosion. That's what it's like for you and me when over the course of our lives, we've been told to ignore, cover up, and stuff down our emotions from loss. You may have heard unhelpful statements like I have, like these. Don't cry. Don't feel bad. Have some cookies and milk. You'll feel better. Or don't be sad. We'll get you a new dog. No one wants to be around a crybaby, so go to your room and cry alone. Be strong. Be strong for others. I still don't know what that means, be strong, but it sounds like I'm supposed to be dishonest and lie about my emotions. Here's another one, a famous one. Just keep busy. And my all-time favorite, I know how you feel. Each statement sends the same message. So I shouldn't feel bad. And also leaves us with the feeling that we'd like to hurt the person that said those things to us. Just being honest. But a few things okay to say to someone who is grieving because of any kind of loss. Please accept my deepest condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss. I can't imagine how difficult this is for you. Your loss is my loss. And here's one, it requires us to be very honest, and that is, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. Each one of those okay statements addresses the heart of the person, their emotions, not their intellect. During this season we've been in, just about all of us have experienced multiple losses of all kinds, including those related to employment, health, finances, even restrictions on normal activities. Some of us and some people we know, unfortunately, have gravitated to what I refer to as a drug of choice to cope with and medicate the painful emotions they experience from loss. And they become excessive and addictive behaviors. Now, drugs and alcohol are the most obvious. But what about some others, like food? Remember, hey, have some cookies and milk? We've been indoctrinated as children to medicate our feelings with food. Or what about internet use, anger, even explosive behavior or uncontrollable rage, isolation, hoarding, promiscuity, even high-risk behaviors, shopping, also known as retail therapy, even exercise and workaholism. These two extreme are dangerous and unhealthy. I remember reading an article, probably at least a decade ago, by this doctor of psychology. And he was so moved at this time to do research to discover a common denominator among all of the young people who committed school shootings up until that point in time. And so he spent months and months of research, and he did come across numerous common denominators, but he did not find one common denominator. But he was driven, and he said, I know there's got to be one common denominator among these young people who committed these school shootings. And so he continued his research, and he eventually found one common denominator, and that was Ritalin. Ritalin. Ritalin is a prescription drug that affects chemicals in the brain and nerves that contribute to hyperactivity and impulse control. It's typically given to children to calm them down. What this doctor discovered was that these young people were hurting. They were in pain, a lot of emotional pain. And the medical community, the mental health community, I should say, failed them because they didn't equip them with tools to deal with the pain. Instead, all they did was medicate them. They just medicated their pain. I want you to remember something. Remember this statement. Grief is about a broken heart, not a broken head. You're not weird and you're not going crazy. Grief is the normal and natural response to loss and change of any kind. And it's a part of life and being human. But it's not just about someone dying. There's over 40 different kinds of losses a person can experience in a lifetime. And it's important that we're getting educated about this so that we can experience loss in a healthy way. We can grieve in a healthy way. Up to now, for most of us, though, moving through intense emotional pain has become such a misunderstood process that we have very little idea of how to respond to loss. And in all honesty, the tools we've been given by our parents and society to deal with the pain of loss have not been very helpful. And the sad thing is, many addictions have an underlying issue of unfinished emotional pain. Not only addictions, but erratic behavior, uncontrollable behavior, compulsive behavior have an underlying issue of unfinished emotional pain from loss. But here's the good news, okay? I know you were waiting for me to say, well, what about the good news? Here's the good news. you're not in this alone. We're in this together. There is help and there is hope. With the right tools and the support of others, we can grieve in a healthy way. And here are some practical tools all of us can apply to our lives for our emotional and mental health and our overall well-being, not only in the midst of loss, but following loss, of any loss. You take these tools, you learn them, and I've done this, and I've experienced many, many losses since I've learned them, and I just put them right into practice every time I experience a loss. And the goal for you and for us is to use these tools and share them with others. So you ready? I didn't hear you. Are you ready? Okay, good. Let's go. The first tool is be a safe person. Be a safe person. How? Don't be strong. Be honest. Be emotionally honest. Tell the truth about yourself all the time. A word of caution, just use some discretion with who you pour your heart out to, though, okay? But it's important to get your sad feelings out, even though our culture only wants to talk about positive and happy feelings. When you tell the truth about your emotional pain and share first, it makes it safe for others to tell the truth about how they feel. The idea is to take care of yourself first so you can be emotionally healthy to be there for others. There was a survey done of from 385,000 people. And among them, the general public, 95% prefer not to talk about loss. Among that group who were grieving, 98% said they need to talk about the loss. So the first tool is be a safe person. The second tool is be a safe parent. Be a safe parent. You probably weren't expecting that one. How? Instead of giving your children reasons why they shouldn't cry, like perhaps your parents and certainly like my parents, offer your children, and maybe not just your children, but the children that you're around. Maybe you care for children, maybe you're a grandparent, but we're all around children. But instead of giving your children reasons why they shouldn't cry, offer them the chance to use words to express their feelings. How do you do that? Ask them what is wrong. That's right. Ask them what is wrong. They may actually tell you. I've learned the best way to get children to share their feelings is to remember that as an adult, you may need to go first. You may need to relate to them a similar experience that you had as a child to make it feel safe for them to share their feelings. For example, if your child experiences the loss of a pet, instead of dealing with that emotional, painful loss by just buying them a new pet, first sit down with your child. Let them express their emotional pain concerning the loss. You can help them in doing this by sharing your memory of how you felt about losing a pet when you were younger. You might even talk about the things you had wished you had said to your pet and the things that you had wished you could have done differently with that pet when it was alive. Try to keep your remembrance short. Then ask them to talk about their feelings related to their loss. What do you do next? That's your cue to listen. Be with what I call a heart with ears. And remember to do so without interrupting them in a very accepting, loving, non-judgmental way. You're saying to them by doing that, that at times it's okay to not be okay. This will help them know that the feelings of emotional loss are normal and that you really care about their feelings. Your actions are showing them that they don't have to act strong or pretend they're okay when they're not. Give them a chance to express their pain, to vent, to unpack their feelings, which is so important, rather than them stuffing everything inside. So the first tool is be a safe person. The second tool is be a safe parent. And the third tool is the spa relaxation. No, I'm only kidding. That's the raffle, but that's not a bad idea. But the third tool is find a safe place. Find a safe place. And there are a few sub-tools under this tool, find a safe place. First is journaling. The first sub-tool is journaling. Keeping a daily record, writing down your innermost thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, hurts, pain, anger, as well as questions you're wrestling with. Include your unhealthy behaviors, habits, and reactions to pain. So journaling is the first subtool under find a safe place. The second subtool is it's very helpful to share your heart with a trusted friend, counselor, or religious leader. Or find a grief recovery method specialist and get started with grief recovery actions and complete what's been left emotionally unfinished from your losses. Mr. Rogers said, in scary times, there are people to help us. Look for the helpers. The third subtool under find a safe place is write a letter. For the loss of a loved one or with a divorce, I highly recommend writing a letter. And to do this in a way that will be extremely helpful to you, comprise your letter of three components. The first component is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Anything and everything you need to forgive that person of, include that in your letter. The second component is apologies. Apologies. Anything you and everything you need to apologize to them for, include that in your letter. The third component, significant emotional statements. Significant emotional statements. They may sound something like this. I loved blank about you. I appreciated blank about you. You deeply hurt me when you blank. You scared me, or you disappointed me, or whatever it may be when you blank, so forth and so on. All those significant emotional statements. And after you complete your letter to that person, listen carefully. Do not send that letter to them or read it to them. Instead, find a safe person you can read it to who will just listen and give you a great big hug after you finish reading it. So the last subtool under find a safe place is this. I've learned I can go to God and talk to him about anything, anything. I can be real, I can be raw, and I can trust him with my heart. He has never rejected me or mishandled me. And he is the best listener I know. Let's let go of all the old ways and habits of dealing with emotional pain and embrace new, healthy ways for us, for our loved ones, and for the people we serve. Remember to put your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them in a moment, but I'd like to end my talk with you with prayer. Would you join me right now? Dear God, thank you for your incredible love for us. Thank you that there is hope and there is help. Thank you for all the helpers out there that you have provided us. And thank you for giving us the strength and the courage that we need to reach out when we need it. And for some of us, that may be today. Keep us all emotionally and mentally healthy. And I pray this in your wonderful name. Amen.
All right, thank you, Pastor Ron. Thank you. Appreciate those points. I took some notes and open to sharing some of them, but certainly want to afford everyone an opportunity to pose your questions to Pastor Ron for the next 5 to 7 minutes. We have dedicated time for him to address specific questions you may have. And as you consider some of your questions, one of the takeaways I so appreciate is how Pastor Ron just identified the 3 major points for us to utilize, and not just for ourselves, but even the community we serve. So for many of us on participating today, we serve in community, we serve in our houses of worship or faith. And so recognizing becoming a safe person is a first step, right? Safe for individuals to be emotionally honest with us as we are emotionally honest with them. Secondly, to be a safe parent or safe adult for youth that are experiencing loss or grief. Pastor Ron enumerated, as he introduced his experience with his family, a host of ways of how grief and loss is experienced, not just in death, but in change of relationship. Even for your youth and young persons moving, relocating, losing friendships and relationships, loss of a pet, loss of continuity, loss of safety. These are all factors that contribute to our suffering from grief and loss. So we want to be a safe person. We certainly want to be a safe member, whether parent or otherwise, for children, and then find a safe place. Journaling is significant. I own that as a person. I believe in journaling and have seen the benefits of that. And the writing of that letter is significant. And we can unpack that more for you if you have questions. But certainly, I just wanted to kind of, piggyback on what Pastor Ron has already shared as some highlights, some big takeaways. And the most significant, if I can say this, is talking to God or whatever is your belief system, to having that time of communing, meditating, praying, just being still and connecting with your belief so that you can experience healing in that way as well. So we do have a question here. Amber Roxon. I'm going to read it out, Amber, if that's okay. She said, I'm curious about Pastor Ron's opinions on the traditional stages of grief, especially since they seem so structured. So Pastor Ron, if you can talk a little bit about, I'm going to say, the perception about stages of grief, because there's a perception, and I'll let Pastor Ron certainly address that.
Sure. I appreciate that question, and that comes up a lot. And we address that within the process of the grief recovery method when we work with people. But the stages of grief that you're referring to were first brought to the world's attention by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And she introduced I think there's 5 stages, but the stages of grief. But they're based upon someone who was diagnosed and told they have a terminal illness, not with those who have died or experienced someone who died. And the challenge with the stages is that they come across as a linear process. They come across, and this is another challenge, they come across as though everybody has to experience them, either linearly, one right after the other, but that everybody has to experience all those stages, which is misleading and confusing and can be actually hurtful to people. The symptoms of loss, I think, are better looked at to help people by saying, hey, sometimes people experience confusion. Their memory is not good. Everybody experiences that. Everybody experiences a roller coaster of emotions. Many people experience a disruption with their sleep habits, sleep patterns, or eating habits, whether they start eating more or they're not eating as much or not at all. So those are more typical symptoms that people experience. And there's others, but rather than the stages, which not everybody experiences them. Some people don't experience any of them. And the other thing about that I mentioned about the stages versus the symptoms is that we may experience some symptoms today and then not tomorrow, but then in a few days we go back to those same symptoms. So the process of recovering from loss, that grieving process, is not linear. It goes back and forth many, many times. And so I think it's much helpful and healthier for people to look at the process of grief within that context. And I hope that answers your question, is helpful to you.
Thank you, Pastor Ron. So we do have a statement as well as maybe a question. We'll see how it pans out. Camilla offers, she's been putting a Band-Aid on her true feelings. What you said is so true, I believe, about being emotionally honest. Unfortunately, we do not put enough emphasis on how important it is to be mentally well. So that is more of a statement as opposed to a question. Chantal acknowledged, are there any resources, webinars about grief for Spanish-speaking individuals?
Well, I would refer everyone to the griefrecoverymethod.com, griefrecoverymethod.com. It's a site where you can get many, many resources. You can, I believe they have resources in Spanish, but you can check that out. And there's also, on that site, you can identify a grief recovery specialist in your area. So that's www.griefrecoverymethod.com. Okay, thank you for that question.
I also put the website on the chat box for those that want access to that.
Thank you. So we have time for maybe one or two more questions. If there are any additional questions, we would certainly want to take advantage of this opportunity to have Pastor Ron address those questions individually, or perhaps in your workspace, your profession, or more community-centered question. We have Pastor Ron, and we would like to avail him for a couple more questions. And if not, in the next moment or two, we'll transition to the next component of the roundtable discussion.
And Guanera, I would just simply add an encouragement to everyone to don't dismiss these tools. If you don't need them right now, put them in your back pocket, put them on the shelf. I'd love to say that none of us will experience any losses further in our lives, but I would be lying. So there may be a time when these tools will be needed. Or you may know someone right now, or you may know someone down the road who is grieving and having a very difficult time. And you can be a blessing to them by coming alongside of them with tools that will help them. And even those statements that I shared earlier with a griever, just those statements send and communicate your big-heartedness and your care and your concern about their well-being, their emotions, and they're not cliches. So just be encouraged with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Pastor
again, Pastor
Gonzalez,
Ron. Sorry.
I actually had a question. It just came to me.
Sorry.
Okay.
Looking over, I also took some notes as well. I like that you said there's tools, there's 3 tools, and it helped me with the notes. I really like the fact that it seems like it's very simple tools, but they're very powerful tools because, you know, when you are grieving, this is something definitely that I've done before, but without realizing. So I really kind of attain to that it's been very helpful. But I just wanted to clarify, what is the difference between being a safe person and being a safe parent? What are the distinctions?
Well, they're really similar. I just separated the two just so I could address them separately, but the principles are the same for a safe person and a safe parent. It's a little bit different with a safe parent because we want to model how to grieve in a healthy way before them, and also be that a safe person, not only a safe parent, but a safe person with them. And you know, if I could share this one thing when it comes to grievers and being around grievers, is something I learned in seminary and something I learned as I serve as a police chaplain. And it's what's called the ministry of presence. The ministry of presence. What is that? It means just coming alongside of somebody who is hurting emotionally, mentally, and just being with them. Doing either very little talking or even sometimes no talking whatsoever, but be that, like I said before, that heart with ears. If you can picture yourself as a heart with ears and just be with that person, your presence alone means that you care about them, means that it sends a signal that they're important, their feelings are important. They're not going crazy. It's normal, it's natural what they're experiencing, and you're sharing your pain, that you're sharing with them so that they can share their pain with you, and you're being that safe person or that safe parent. And you're making a way by your silence, more than your talking, giving them the okay to open up and open up more than they would otherwise. And that's what people need. They just need to be able to unpack all the emotional energy. There's a lot of emotional energy that goes with a loss of any kind.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we do have one other question. We have a thank you from Cindy, but she also wants to know if there are any pamphlets that she can have to mail out, or to, I guess, the community she serves or the profession she's in, make them aware of the grief recovery method information.
I do not have any pamphlets. I would just recommend going to the website for now, pointing people to there.
Okay.
I actually just saw the website. There is a free grief recovery handbook available that you can request. You just have to pay the price of shipping. So if that's something you might be interested in, yes, you can go to the website and request it directly from them. But I'm checking to see, I don't see necessarily a brochure, but perhaps there is one in here.
And Jessica,
and
there are some resources that I could provide to you and you can send to everyone. There are some handouts that they have that they share or they use that's more informational, that are linked, or PDF that I can share.
Okay.
Just remind
That
me
sounds great.
afterwards, and I'll share it.
Sounds good. And I just checked that there is a way to download this book, so you don't have to pay for that shipping if you're available. So I will send, we'll gather together some information and we'll send it to all the participants.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, again, we thank you, Pastor Ron, for,
We have one more.
yes, we have Irene. She wants to know if you could be contacted to talk to someone that is grieving.
Yes, yes. You can contact me through Gwinnera or Jessica, or get my contact information from them and give it to that person so that they can reach out to me.
Okay.
I would rather we do it that way rather than me reach out to them.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, Irene. Thank you, Pastor Ron, for availing yourself. Thank you for leading us in this discussion, and I'm going to say contemplation, and even equipping ourselves with more tools to be the safe person, be the safe parent or community member, and to be a safe place and create safe places for ourselves. So thank you again, Pastor Ron. We appreciate you very much. We thank you for the time. We look forward to connecting to you soon.
Just a couple of announcements about the ADAPT Coalition. Our next General Coalition meeting is March 10th. We do have a brown bag event in East Orange on March 15th. This is an event for our older adults where we provide information, a presentation on prescription misuse and abuse, educating our older adults about making sure that they're monitoring and securing and disposing of their medications in a safe way. And we also collect expired or unused medications at this event so that we can dispose of it properly at an incinerator. And then lastly, we have a youth workshop on March 23rd. This youth workshop is virtual, and we're going to have a presentation, information from the Poison Control Center to talk about some of the substances that they're seeing seeing people, young children being poisoned, because next month is Poison Control Prevention Month. Okay, we have a QR code here, and we have a website. This is for registering for any of our upcoming events. Feel free to scan that, and I'll try to put that in the chat box as well. Our registration, I think I did before, the registration link as well in the chat box. And I'll put my email address in there as well, so I'll follow up with you via email. We are on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel where we do post our webinars, and we have public service announcements on there. And so if you're ever interested, you can go there and see our past information. We also have a podcast at Adapting Through COVID. Please check us out. All right, so this is the lovely spa therapy relaxation basket that we are raffling off. I am going to stop share to share another screen where I have all your names that have participated on this lovely spin wheel. Okay, so you can see everybody's names are in here, and I'm going to click spin and see who wins. So good luck, everyone. Karen Sweeting, congratulations.
Congratulations, Karen.
Congratulations, Karen.
Okay. Okay. All right, so at this time, we will conclude our Interfaith Roundtable. Thank you so much for attending. I'm going to send you a survey via email. If you could just take a few minutes, it's super short. It's like, I think 10 questions or less, just to let us know, what you liked about it, what we can improve upon, so we can do things better. Okay. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And as soon as we have the recording available, we will send that out as well via email. Okay. Thank you so much for attending. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you
God
everyone
bless
for
you.
participating. Hope you are able to take the learnings and implement them in the different areas already identified. Be well, be safe.
Thank you. Have a blessed week.